Hey, Shalom Akim. Once again, I'm just coming back through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Shai. My name is Gabar Allah from the GMS Toronto camp. I'm just going to come back and give you a lesson here, okay, to the best of my ability. Hopefully, it will be edifying. And it's just going into a situation that's happening over here in Canada, in the province of British Columbia. There is a lot of Gadite protesters trying to stop a gas pipeline from being built. And obviously Esau, the Canadian government, which is ran by Esau, which is so-called white people, you are of the nation of Edom. They're not too happy about this, and they have sent the federal police, the RCMP, to intimidate and really to stop the blockade or the protest. Okay, and they are ready to use lethal force, and they're going to use sniper rifles. This is pretty serious, and this shows that the so-called white man, he cannot change, and Esau, he's evil, and there's always war in his heart. And by the way, the RCMP, they are the federal police of Canada, but they have always been battling Gad. They have been battling Gad, for centuries over here on this land of Canada. And there's a big history of corruption and atrocities that the RCMP has committed. Okay, when you go into their history, and originally they worked for the crown. When you go into their humble beginnings, they work for the Queen. Even though we have separated from the monarchy, from Britain, okay, they still pay tribute and homage to the Queen and that monarchy. So we know who they work for. Okay, they don't work for you, they work for the crown, which really goes back to these devils, man, these Edomites. So I'm going to hit some precepts, and I may play this clip because this article goes into reconciliation, and it also goes into Sirach, the 12th chapter. I'll get into that shortly. So it says, monstrous dock shows Canadian Mounties wanted snipers ready to shoot Indigenous land defenders blockading pipeline. In response to the exclusive Guardian report, critics called the actions of Canadian authorities abhorrent and unconscionable. Yeah, man, because the RCMP, they're federal agents. They're trained to not have a conscience when it comes to killing you tribes. They're trained that you're the enemy, and that you're not a human being, and you deserve to die. That's how they look at you, and they'll murder you in cold blood. They'll go home, eat a steak dinner, and have sex with their wife or their dog, whatever they do. Okay, but they're not trained to have a conscience when it comes to you. They'll spill your blood without hesitation. And you could see it in their faces, man. These are red devils, and they wear red, which represents blood in the left-hand side. Okay? That's who they are, man. Look at them. They're cold-blooded killers. Now it says, in an exclusive report Friday that outraged human rights advocates worldwide, the Guardian revealed that Canadian police wanted snipers on standby for a January 2019 crackdown on an Indigenous land defenders who were blocking construction of a natural gas pipeline through unceded Wet'suwet'en territory. The Guardian reported on official records, documents, as well as audio and video content reviewed by the newspaper related to the police invasion that led to 14 arrests. And they have always been invaders. How was this land taken? This land was stolen, and it was stolen by these troops that you see here. You can watch movies like Big Bear. Big Bear. He was a chief from Saskatchewan. Okay, and he actually went up against the Redcoats. Okay, the mounted police force, and he actually won against them. But it just shows that they've always been fighting you Gadites ever since they landed on these shores. So they've been fighting you for centuries, man, going back to colonial times, and they have been constantly invading your territory. And they are successful. They have been successful, and they still are to this very day. That's because the Lord put the Spirit on them to to overthrow you and to put you in a lower state, because that goes back to biblical prophecy. One of the main prophecies is found in Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter, which goes into the curses. Right? You can go read it for yourself, man. Those are the curses, and you fit those curses, you Gadites. Now, let me hit a precept here, because since I was going into invasion, because an invasion is done by an army or a troop. And, ironically, that's your name, Gad, because you indigenous people of North America, you Gadites, okay, your name is troop. That's what your name means, Gad, troop, okay? And it's spiritual why you're going through these situations, because to this very day, you're here, you're still here, steadfast, standing strong. Compared to all the other tribes. The tribes are all broken down. We're all warriors, but you specifically, you're fighting to the very end, even in your lowest state. You're always fighting. You've always been fighting, man. Okay? You've always been fighting. And that goes back to your name, because you are the seventh son of Jacob when you go into the history. All right? And there's a reason why you're the seventh son, because you're a complete warrior. That's what your name means. Warrior, troop, army. Okay? So this is Gad. Okay? Going into Gad. Genesis chapter 49, verse 19. Gad, a troop shall overcome him, but he shall overcome at the last. And you can go into many things, but the main thing that stands out in history today, modern biblical history today, okay, you can go into the American cavalry. They overcame you. But if you want to look at it through a Canadian perspective, that cavalry can also be the RCMP. Okay, the Redcoats, RCMP, these guys, because they're a form of a cavalry, and they did a lot of killing over here, a lot of murdering and invading. Okay, they are a special police force designed to, or dedicated to overthrow you over here in Canada. So it says, a troop shall overcome him, but he shall overcome at the last. That's right. So you're going to lose the battles. Right now you're losing the battles. That's why you're overcome. You've been overcame. He overcame you, but he shall overcome at the last. That's right. So you're going to win the war through the spirit and power of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai. So when you look at things like this, when you look at events that take place with the RCMP going against you Gadites, you should think of this prophecy. All right, you should get happy, really, because you're going to win at the very end, because the Lord said so. This should make you want to get more involved in your history, in your power, which is Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai, knowing your heritage, and learning this Bible. Okay? Now it goes into notes from... it says here, notes from a strategy session for a militarized raid on ancestral lands of the Wet'suwet'en Nation show that commanders of Canada's National Police Force, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, RCMP, argued that lethal overwatch is required. They said it's required. Okay, this is required. Why? Because I stated earlier, they view you as the enemy. They view you as an enemy. And they know what you're capable of. They know. Even when they stole this land, they have everything set for them, they're still worried about you. And that's why they want to use lethal force. Even though you're not coming out there with guns. When you look at the photos of the actual protesters, they're not coming out there with weapons. So why is this devil coming out with guns? Why is he approaching you with weapons, man? You got to think about that, because he knows who you are, and he knows what you're capable of, and he knows that you have a power behind you. And really, he's the devil, and he wants to kill you with the sword. He's bloodthirsty. Okay? And it says, argued that lethal overwatch is required, a term for deploying snipers. And a sniper is not no ordinary gun. It's not like a pistol. A sniper is a high-powered, long-range weapon that's used from a distance. Okay, that's what it's used for. It's used for a distance. Just keep that in mind. High-powered sniper rifles, man. The RCMP commanders also instructed officers to use as much violence toward the gate as you want ahead of the operation to remove a roadblock which had been erected by Wet'suwet'en people to control access to their territories and stop construction of the proposed 670-kilometer coastal gas link pipeline. Now, I just want to go into the pipeline a bit. The reason why you Gaddets are protesting, because it's in your it's in your DNA as well, because we're a peaceful people and we like to see things flourish. Okay, we like to see things in its natural course. But the reason why you protest against that, because it's been passed down for generations from your elders to take care of the land that you inhabit. And really, that love for taking care of the land actually goes back to the scriptures, man. That's actually a part of our law. And that also that also shows you that some of the remnant, some of the remnants of our heritage being passed down to the tribe of Gad, because that actually goes back to our law. Taking care of the land, whether you know it or not. Okay, so this is Numbers chapter 35, verse 33. It says, "So ye shall not pollute the land wherein ye are, for blood it defileth the land, and the land cannot be cleansed of the blood that is shed therein, but by the blood of him that shed it." Right? So land is not just polluted by garbage or or by not by garbage or by what is it, oil spills. It's not just polluted by factory farming, whatever you want to call it. It's actually polluted by innocent blood being shed. Okay, and this land is also polluted because there has been a lot of murders on this land, on this soil. Okay, a lot of you Gaddets have been murdered for your land. So it is defiled. Okay, just got to put that out there. It's defiled already. Even if you were to get back the land through treaties, and if they were to be very cordial with you, which they're never going to be, I'm talking about these devils, so-called white man, it still wouldn't be clean. That's still not gonna, your land is still not gonna be legitimate, okay, because his blood has to be shed. And that's why we have Yahushua coming back. He's ultimately gonna do that, okay. Now let me move on. It says, "Defile not therefore the land which ye shall inhabit, wherein I dwell, for the Lord Yahweh dwell among the children of Israel." And that's why you're protesting. You may not know, you may not put the name of the Lord, but that's where it really goes back to. That's why you have such a deep love and connection to do that, to actually defend your land and to keep it clean. Okay, that just shows you are the people, man, because you love keeping the land clean. And everybody knows that a Gadite, a Native American, they're about keeping their land clean, man, and not polluting. And actually, a lot of these heathen nations, they come to you for guidance on how to keep your land clean, how to keep the land clean. So we move on. It says, "Indigenous land defenders established the Gidmeten checkpoint where the police operation took place as a part of a broader battle against pipeline builder TC Energy, formerly known as TransCanada. The RCMP action was an attempt to enforce a court injunction that came in response to the Unistoten, camp established on Wet'suwet'en territory in opposition of the pipeline. It says Guardian readers respond to the report with swift condemnation of the RCMP's behavior, and rightfully so, because that behavior is unacceptable. You know, if you want to look at it through a carnal lens, but spiritually we know that's how this devil is supposed to act. We know that. Us that are in the know, we know that he's justified in doing that, because he's just a devil. He's going to be wicked. Okay? It says, this is abhorrent and unconscionable, tweeted Steve Wilcox, a professor at Wilfrid Laurier University, Ontario, Canada. American author and journalist Michael Debert summed up the revelations in one word: monstrous. Yeah, because he is a monster. Your adversary, the devil, is as a roaring lion, seeking who he may devour. And a lion, it's a beast, man. It's like a monster. It's very monstrous in strength. Okay? And that's who Esau is. He is a monster. He is monstrous, man. He'll just kill you for the fun of it. Just for you defending your land. Some critics highlighted how police conduct contrasted with the Canadian government's truth and reconciliation efforts launched under Conservative former Prime Minister Stephen Harper and continued under the country's current Liberal leader, Justin Trudeau. So, that's what I wanted to get into to show you this, because this footage right here shows you the reconciliation, that the so-called reconciliation that Stephen Harper made on behalf of the Canadian federal government. Okay, this is a form of an apology for the Indian residential school system, which was genocide, which was a Holocaust and a goddamn shame. And this will always be forever in Canadian history, but a lot of people will want to forget it, especially Edomites. But you know what? It will never be forgotten, because it's on video. We have the records, and there's many historians and many people coming out giving their testimony on what really happened, man. All right, so here I'll play a little bit, and then I'm going to move to the end just for the sake of time. Here, this is a survivor, this old Gadite woman. She's a survivor of the residential school. She must probably be in her 90s, I'm not sure, but she's really old. And you still have a lot of survivors to this very day that can give their testimony on what really went on. And there was a lot of atrocities. Those residential schools, they were set up to kill the Indian in you, so that you can assimilate into Esau's system. This system of white supremacy he has set up, so you could forget your heritage, forget your culture. Right? Okay, and you devils, you have a lot to pay over here in Canada, man. You have a lot to pay for.
Mr. Speaker, I stand before you today to offer an apology to former students of Indian residential schools. The treatment of children in Indian residential schools is a sad chapter in our history.
You see, they're full of shit. They're all smirking. They don't take it seriously. They don't take it too seriously. You can see it in his face. He doesn't look sincere at all. But that's what the scripture, it tells you about this devil, man. His wickedness rusteth. Okay, so this is Sirach chapter 12. Verse 10, never trust thine enemy, for like as iron rusteth, so is his wickedness. Though he humble himself and go crouching, yet take good heed and beware of him. Okay, he's humbling himself, right? So-called. He's crouching himself. He's giving a so-called apology. That's what it says here. Statements by ministers. So all these devils behind him. Here, his cabinet, who runs the show. Okay, apology to former students of Indian residential schools. So this is him humbling himself. And you got to beware of this. And thou shalt be unto him as if thou hadst wiped a looking glass, and thou shalt know that his rust hath not been altogether wiped away. And that's true, because after he gave this apology down the road, he didn't live up to what he said. You have many examples. I remember a couple years later, there was an incident which it has always been around, even before Stephen Harper. There was a land pollution being taken place at Grassy Narrows Reserve. I believe that's situated in Ontario, in the province of Ontario. And in 2010, you had the leaders and also, I believe, some people from the reserve. They did, I believe they walked from Grassy Narrows all the way down to Toronto, and that was very, very, very far. Okay, it's like more than 100 kilometers almost. It's very far. It was a very far walk that they journeyed over here into Toronto. Okay, and that was a form of a protest. And then the reason why they came over here in Toronto is to do a fish fry, and they invited Prime Minister Stephen Harper and I believe Kathleen Wynne and other ministers, okay, or governors, I believe, or ministers, I mean, okay. And the reason why they were having the fish fry is it was to get the prime ministers to eat the polluted food that they were eating. They brought the polluted food from their home. They cooked it up here, and it was basically like a form of a protest and showing you, hey man, if you really truly live up to how you say that your government is going to apologize, then why don't you eat the same food that we eat? Okay, but anyway, that just shows you who this devil is. He humbled himself and go crouching. You gotta take good heed, man, because he's a damn devil. So I'm gonna move the video up and show you him getting up off the stand and shaking their hand, man.
For all of us. God bless all of you. God bless our land.
Look at that. God bless all you. God bless our land. He doesn't mean that. He doesn't believe in God. He'll shake your hand, look you straight in the eye, and then lie to you and stab you in the back, man. It's this damn devil. You Edomites have a lot to pay for, man. And it starts with the leadership. You Rothschilds that set up these governments, you have a lot to pay for too. Now let me just read this comment. No fable of reconciliation can gloss over a machinery of dispossession that will always resort ultimately to uninformed men with guns taking land by force on its colonial frontiers. That's well said. Okay, whether he's a devil or not, that's well said. Okay, because that's what they did in the beginning. Under Stephen Harper, he made that reconciliation, but it was all for nothing. It was all fables, man. Just a fairy tale. It wasn't true. So, yeah, with that, I hope this was edifying. You can continue reading the article if you want. Until next time, just want to give all praises, glory, and honor due unto Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone that rule well. And peace and salutations unto the hopeful elect. Until next time, Shalom and Kwame Ashala. Abad Babal.